last video, I got quite a few requests for a shop tour, and I've had at least one with every video I put out there. They want to see the shop because they see the shop in the background and they want to see more about it. So I'm going to break down and do a shop tour as best I can. I'm not noted for my speaking abilities, but this will be it, and this is especially for you, Nigel. So you'll see down this way, you see where I divided it. The big problem was that wall is right up against the garage door tracks, and it's the same way on the other side. There was just enough space there to get the wall in there. And we'll go in through here. You can see this is the main part of the shop. I've had the contractors add a 4-foot section on this side of the shop to give me more space, and it's actually a foot longer than a normal garage. So I haven't never measured the square footage out here, but there's a jog in the wall here, and that's so I can open the driver's door when I get out of the car. And I've got every square inch that I could to make the shop. We'll start off at this end. We have storage here for just about everything. As you notice, I've got over 100 drawers in this, and all the cabinets that are in here I have built, and some of them are built as many as 3 times because I wasn't satisfied with the way they came out, and you know, I'd use them for a while and say, well, I could improve this, and I would improve it. And so all the cabinets, and most of the cabinets are made out of wood from my local dump or the landfill or the wood pile, except for the fronts. All the fronts are made from birch or oak that I cut when I built my houses. I built a few houses too, and I would save the lumber, have it sawed, and dry it. And so a lot of this is birch because I love working with birch. And the oak tops are usually from oak flooring that was left over from jobs. This is a Diacro Bender that I picked up at an auction many years ago, and I had worked with one of these at a place that I worked, and I loved them. The one that we had was much bigger. This is a very small one. I think they make one a little smaller than this, but it's very handy for bending little pieces, and I use it all the time. It's kind of an expensive thing to have in a home workshop, but I have probably 75 or 80 dies that I've made for it. I've been tubing and bar stock, round stock, flat stock, whatever. It's really a handy tool. Okay. This is my tapping rig. I built this. It's just a piece of plate, a piece of pipe, and this piece of steel I got from somewhere, and I can lift it up and down, and I've put on a tapping handle. What do you call it? Just the chuck from the tap handle onto here. It's just screwed on. And that way I can lift it up, I can put my parts in here and tap them real easy. And because most of my stuff is small, I don't have a big handle on this. This is the taps here. Okay, this is just storage. And then we move over here. I've got a drill press that belonged to my grandfather, was probably bought in the late 30s or the early 1940s. I've worked with this all my life when I was a kid, and as you can see, when I was a kid, I drilled a few holes in few dents in the thing, and I got hell for that. But for the age of it, some of them I see they'll be drilled around in a big arc like this. This is pretty good shape for its age. I've added a dial indicator so I can read the depth, and I can set that to just about anywhere by moving the table and make my drill holes exactly the amount I want. Variable speed. This is a 3-phase motor, 3/4 horsepower, and that a Teco, what do they call it? It gives it variable speed and reversible, so it's a really nice deal. And reverse it, that's reverse, and it's variable speed. And I still have the belts up there to change the speed so I can get almost infinite amount of speeds out of this. I have a shop sink because you have to wash your hands often here, and that's also from the dump. And over here I have the milling machine, and everything that I use for the milling machine is in these drawers except my my parallels, which are on the other side, and I haven't moved them over here yet, but I try to keep everything very handy. Now on this I have put in a electric motor to lift the head, and that's also variable speed and reversible. Has to be on. So I can bore with this. Go really slow. And it does a nice job boring. I'm very happy with this mill. This is a PM 728 VT, and all this up here is all for this motor here that is a stepper motor which raises and lowers the head. And the connection I made with the stepper motor is just a shaft with a socket on the end of it, and then I'm driving the nut. Because if you think about it, you would say, well, it's going to unscrew the nut. Well, when it's going down, it's unscrewing. So if you tighten it, it won't unscrew the nut. And when it's coming up, it's tightening the nut, and that's when there's most pressure on it. Just have more cabinets. This is all my end mills. Every kind of end mill you'd ever want. And most of this collection came from a table I bought that was beside an end mill at an auction, and nobody knew what was in what was there. It had a removable top, which nobody noticed. And when I went to take it out of there, I took the top off, and there was hundreds of end mills underneath it. Some of them is still in the box. It was amazing, and I only paid like 20 bucks for the table. The vise also came from my grandfather, probably bought in the 40s. It's nice rugged vise. Over here is more storage. Down here I have a contractor's table saw, a chop saw, and this thing here folds up real quick so I can pull it out here and work. I do very little woodworking in here because you know it makes the dust. But I do have a dust collector that I can hook it up to, but of course it isn't 100%. What else? As we move around to here, I have a handbrake that I made probably 40 or 50 years ago. Nice and rugged. It'll do a foot. I can bend this, even short pieces of 16 gauge in this. And this is what raises and lowers it. And there's also an adjustment to bring this head back and forth. Then I have a grizzly shear, which I've modified. The hold down on it was terrible, so I made this spring hold down. And I added the little table, 6-inch rules on the either side, so I can cut to length very easily. Over here, we have a high-speed drill for us. That was a gift from a friend who goes to auctions a lot, and he had no use for it. And whoever bought it evidently didn't ever use it. And I couldn't figure out why it was it's an expensive piece of equipment. And it's extremely high speed. And it's variable speed. Well, I drill holes, 30, 40, 50 thousandths in size, and the drills are very tender. And what I found out was this spring, which I have totally disconnected, was the problem, because you couldn't feel that drill because of the spring. You see there's no spring on it now. What I do now is just let the weight of the handle drill the hole. So I'm not bearing down on it at all. And it works out really great that way. I was thinking of putting a retractor on here with a weight so you could feel it. It wouldn't change as you went. That spring was way too strong for that. But that works out really good. This is my grinding area. This is just the usual things. And this is my cutoff saw. And And one of the improvements I made was this little table here with hold downs. And I can put very small parts in here and saw them off that I used to saw off by hand, but I can just set them here and let the saw run, and I can put round things in there. It's amazing what you can cut when you have this little table here. And I've got a whole drawer of hold downs for it. Fit in the... Right here is a Craftsman Shopmaster. This was really Craftsman. It's from Sears and Roebuck. I picked this up in a yard sale many, many years ago, probably 50 years ago. And it was for wood, but I didn't need a wood cutting band, so I already had one. So I wanted to make this slow speed. And what I did was I added in the bottom here, I don't know if you can see underneath there's a gearbox. And I've got this running 125 feet per minute. The blade runs nice and slow, and I use this all the time for cutting things that are thin. So I keep a fine-tooth blade in there, wavy set, and I cut sheet metal on it, or anything that's small. I don't go to that saw because that has a coarser tooth in it. Now we'll get to the lathe, which is my central area. I have a workbench on the back behind me and beside me, and this is a Precision Matthews lathe. It's a 10 by 28, 12 by 28, and it's variable speed. It has a lot of nice features, and I really like the lathe. I wish that I worked in the factory where they built them, because I could give them a lot of improvements. One thing I had to do was put the power feed lever out here. If it was inside the cover, I'd have to open the cover and unloosen the screw, and unloosen this screw and make the adjustment and come back. And I change direction in the feed quite often, especially when I'm doing some threading or something. And it wasn't handy at all. So I added this. It has a little detent, so I can just flip it in. Very simple fix. And it could be actually simpler than this. I should have just drilled a hole in there and tapped it and put this handle into it, but I made this little mechanism up here to screw it on the side. The lathe has a digital readout for this. I've added this handle because I drill a lot of holes, and that screw thing works good for going in, but if you have to screw it out and clear the drill, it just takes forever to drill a hole. So this thing I can drill in and then quickly clear the drill. What else did I change on this? I don't know. Oh, I have the dial indicator. So I have my lateral dimension, and then over here I have a stop, and there's a micrometer. If I want to go another 10, I can dial in 10, and that's very handy. I use both of those all the time. And this one also doubles as a stop, because this thing is within the range of the dial indicator. So if I want to use it as a stop, it just goes inside and I hit that, so I can do stops left and right. This is just a small workbench I built for storing the lathe, tool holders, and other things that I use on the lathe, all the tooling. And I have an air conditioner. Over here is more storage with whatever you have to have in a machine shop. And this is my main workbench. This is the only bench that I only built once. I built the top 3 times, but the bottom is the original bottom. And I use this all the time. It's on casters. I can pull it out when I drop something underneath it. And almost everything in the shop that I can put on casters is on casters. Of course, you can't put the lathe or the milling machine or the drill press on casters, but all these cabinets that are fairly light, I make them so I can move them around and sweep the floor. Last but not least is the powder coating setup that I made. And I got to put this at the other end of the shop so that we can turn it on and let you show the features of it. This is my powder coating rig, like I said before, and it's got a lot of neat features. I wanted it to be easy to set up and quick to use, because sometimes I just want to powder coat one piece and I don't want a big mess and have to clean it all up afterwards. And that's what this is designed for. I just have to plug it in, and that activates the oven, the fan in the back. I don't know if you can hear it running. And it has lights. And the lights are inside here. And when I get finished, I just have to take the vacuum and vacuum it out. I know they say not to vacuum, but I do it all the time. I'm still alive. And I have all the colors down here. And everything's marked, so I can switch colors very quickly. You just have to blow the thing off and vacuum it out a little bit, and you can put another color in there and start right up. The parts, I don't know if I can show you this or not. I have here a wheel, and what's happened is the hook underneath here, and I hang my part on it, and I can turn the part when I'm spraying it without putting my hands on it. And this is the same thing. This is a turntable, and I can just give it a little turn, and this here is for taking things off the turntable and putting them up into my oven. I have two grounds here. One is from over here and then up here to ground the part. Now, this is my last acquisition. It's a it's a vertical rotisserie oven, and most of your toaster ovens are too short. They're this way, and I was always having trouble putting things in there without hitting them. But this thing is really great. It only costs like $76. It goes to 425 to 450 degrees if I leave it long enough. I've got a good view of the part. It's 10 inches in diameter and plenty high. And actually, believe it or not, yeah, let's see how that works. These things fold to the sides, so you can put them on the sides or on the top and the bottom. I'm really happy with that oven. It's a big improvement. That's about it. It's a small shop to me, but probably it's a big shop for some of you. But it's really well laid out, and that's the important thing, to lay it out so you don't have to go to the other side of the shop to get a drill bit or something. You got to have everything handy. As you'll notice on the on the lathe here, I have the drills that I use all the time right up here, and over here I have all the different. I have the brass drills, the letter drills, the number drills, and it's right within arm's length. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. That's what helps us.